Yeah, I'm saying this mostly as a chance to like uplift you guys and kind of more support so that maybe
Hello, everybody.
Woo!
Thank you for coming. Welcome to our 20th anniversary panel.
Happy birthday.
we're very festive.
We have to bring a balloon to bring.
Put up the highway.
Yeah.
Thanks all.
What is the question they have?
Yeah, her answers.
Let's begin. Okay. So first we have on our side Jordan. Everyone.
Hey.
Jordan is a New York City-based event organizer and curator. He was a member and later president of MEMCO from 2016 to 2020.
Yeah.
And next is John. John Sachs is a senior booking agent and data lead at Liaison Artists in San Francisco, California. He joined MEMCO as a freshman in 2006 and was president from 2007 to 2010. After graduating in 2010, John spent 3 years in Washington, D.C. at the Hewlett Agency before moving to Liaison Artists in San Francisco in 2015. As a booking agent, John currently has a roster of 25 house and techno artists, building their tours across 16 countries in North and South America. Some artists include Anna, Ben Clark, Lee Foss, Ann Pot, Julia Karma, Desert Hearts, Dosum, and Lindsay Herbert. John loves to return to Detroit and Ann Arbor frequently, both as an attendee of Movement Festival in the spring and a Michigan football season ticket holder in the fall. Next is Laura.
Yeah.
Laura, aka Laura Lai, is a Chicago-based artist, musician, producer, and DJ. She was a board member, and the president of MEMCO from 2014 to 2018. We have Daniel. Daniel is a Detroit-based artist, musician, writer, and interdisciplinary organizer. They released their first vinyl record, Friend Zone, with Acid Camp in 2024. They have also digitally self-released 3 EPs and an album, including Tether, Damp, Cyclical Tendencies, or Round and Round, and Come Home. Sharp is also the founder and core organizer of Moods, 2017 to now, a community of nightlife workers, techno fans, and artists that platforms music outside of techno with mixtapes and low-capacity events. Sharp has performed at Basilica Soundscape, Boston Nova Civic Club, Beloved Radio, Disco Spy, Hunter Thompson Saloon, Public Records, Flyover, The Lot, and Crush Collision. And then last but not least is Miguel. Miguel is a Detroit-based artist from Ypsilanti, Michigan. Miguel was a member from 2018 to 2021, serving terms as the Vice Chair and President. Okay, well, we thought it would be fun to start with a sort of chronology of MEMCO from 2005 to now. We have basically every year up here, minus a few, but we have the good years up here.
Someone had to say it.
But I think we should go in order of when you're in the club, so I'm start with John.
Alright, so 2005 the club starts. I actually joined when I was a freshman in 2006, and believe it or not, the first year in 2005, MEDMA, it was called MEDMA back then, Michigan Electronic Dance Music Association. The name changed a couple years after I graduated. But in 2005, Mike Zuzolo and Jeremy Linden, who are the OG founders, they actually started as like a carpool system from Ann Arbor to Detroit. So the students, there were a lot of unmarked events where there weren't ID checking. Let's just say it wasn't 21 plus. So a lot of undergrads would do this card service. It was kind of like a forum communication, which became very popular as I was an undergrad with the MEDMA forum, which we'll talk about. But when I came to Michigan in '06, the club kind of contracted and there were only about 5 or 6 of us, and the club was kind of under threat of just kind of dissolving. But fall of '06 and the 2006-2007 school year was the first year that we started doing events on campus. And I'll never forget the spring of 2007, we had this epic house party on Packard. Coincidentally, a couple of houses down from where I ended up living sophomore through senior year. And so 2007 and 2008 were really the biggest years when the club really took off. We were fortunate enough to have the support from Necto nightclub in 2008, who helped MEDMA actually book Deadmau5 at Necto in September 2008. It was Deadmau5's very first event in Michigan. It was September 2008. We'll get into that later. I could be up here all day telling you guys about everything. But when that happened, the following festival, September 2008, we got hundreds of people signing up, and it really snowballed. And then 2009 and 2010, we enjoyed a lot of success on campus at both cooperative houses and fraternities and house parties. We were doing events like every single weekend, whether they were on campus in Ann Arbor, or we actually had a connect with the Boom Boom Room, which is a 19 and up club in Windsor, Ontario. All we needed to do was get at least 20 people to sign up, and we would get either 2 limos or a party bus that would pick us up in Ann Arbor at the corner of Greenwood and Packard where I lived. And they would drive us 19 and 20-year-olds across the border.
It's how I met my wife.
And it's how Daniel met his wife.
Love at the Boom Boom Room.
And yeah, I graduated in 2010, and as Noah mentioned, I'm a music agent now, and a lot of the reason why I'm in the music industry is because of this club. So, period, 2010.
Daniel.
Well, first off, thank you, Noah. Thank you, everyone, for coming. This is really exciting. It's crazy to think this club is older than some of us. So I'll say that I sort of bridge between John Sachs and I, particularly because I had an older brother, also named Doug Sharp, and he was going to college with John Sachs. He stayed a little bit later because of age differences. So I think my first party, I was still in high school, I think I was like 14 or 15. I was born and raised in Grand Rapids, and we went to a party that was no alcohol. It was like a coffee-themed party for a fundraiser. So of course my parents were like, you gotta go. We want you to go to the University of Michigan. So my first experience with MEDMA, I was like 14. Obviously really liked it. We went to Movement the very next year, and then I came, my first year here was 2013 with a very clear intention of, this is a community that exists, it's thriving, they have events, they're going to Detroit, they're learning how to DJ, I should join. And to John Sachs' point, it really professionalized and formalized through the University of Michigan. We had been, at that point, 2013, we were playing 2-3 parties a month. It was at a clip. And a lot of them were actually in Ann Arbor. We were essentially almost sort of a like unspoken DJ and equipment management production for like all of the fraternity houses, which it meant that it occupied a lot of our time. So a lot of the driving to Windsor had stopped. We had not really done a lot of work back in Detroit. We weren't regularly visiting the cities. And so I was there for 2 years, and then I became president for 2 years, and I was like, we should reestablish that, particularly because Detroit is the birthplace of techno. We're like 45 minutes away from it. We should be going there more. We should be DJing more. We should be playing records. We should have that relationship. So that was the year when I was president. It was 2015, 16, into the end of 2017. And that, I think, really kind of helped us reestablish that, because of course Ann Arbor has, and Ypsilanti in this region has a really great relationship to music. It's easy to stay here, but it's also very easy to go to Detroit. So to keep that rhythm up, I think is really important. I think it's a nice thread of MEMCO and MEDMA, making sure that we're always going back to that city. So I'll leave it to Laura.
Yeah.
So, yeah, thanks for having me.
Yay.
It's great, yeah, great to be here. See all y'all. My MEDMA story started when I was like in high school, found out I was gone to University of Michigan. I was like, I need to meet people that love dancing and going to raves. Like, it's just a must for me. And I found this club on like the student org website, and I was like, I am joining that. It was like the summer before. I was like obsessed. When I went to festival, I was like went straight up to the table, and I was like, I've been looking all over for y'all. I'm so excited. Like, and I think like they got the president at the time, David Kanowski. I think I overwhelmed you. I was really, who the fuck is this girl? Oh my god. So I hope he's out there somewhere. His IG handle is music is my GF. I wonder if it's still to remember that specific memory. But yeah, joined the student org, and I just wanted to like go to parties and go dancing and find other people that loved electronic music. And when I joined, they had, I don't know when the DJ workshop started, but that was like a big game changer for me personally. And I went to DJ workshop and then just got super involved. Daniel really encouraged me to get involved with the student org, and I guess from there just started going to Detroit. Yeah, we started doing like a lot of, we had like the residency at NECTO. We started doing the residency at Above at German restaurant. Club Above. I don't know if I still do that, but that was like one of the events that we started, and it really showed me how to do like underground, like how to do DIY events, and meet like-minded people that were interested in electronic music. We did Ableton workshops. I heard that y'all are still doing that today. I was talking to Noah about that. And then while I was president, that's when we did the name change from MEDMA to MEMCO, and I'll probably talk more about that later and pass it over to Jordy.
Yeah, thanks for having us. This is a trip. I was telling a few of you, this is the first time I've been to Ann Arbor since I graduated in 2020, the COVID year. So yeah, it's a pleasure to be here and cool to meet a lot of you. But yeah, I'm not from Michigan. I grew up in New York City, so I came here, and a lot of my experience with MEMCO was informed by that. I was, like a lot of us, trying to find a place where I fit in and could meet people who were inspiring to me. And I think I was shopping around at festival. I started at WCBN because my friend wanted to go, and I ended up becoming a DJ there, and was doing the what's that alt frat called? Metal frat. I was starting to go to metal frat, and it was cool, but it wasn't my thing exactly. Yeah, and I stumbled into MEMCO, and it was like the first, party where I saw kids my age dancing with their eyes closed and DJing. It was in a basement, I think. Was it at your crib, Daniel?
Probably.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. It was just so inspiring to see, and it helped me kind of contextualize some things. I was a high schooler in New York, just waltzing into random shows, and I was like, this is pretty cool. Then came here and started really kind of getting hit over the head with knowledge about how much not just Detroit, but this city has been an incubator for a lot of the shit that we love, a lot of music that we love, and that kind of inspired me to get more involved. So yeah, MEMCO, it's crazy because I'm sitting up here with my DJ dad and DJ mom, and then I got my DJ son on the left, and now he can DJ circles around all of us. It's just fucking crazy. Yeah, so it's a family affair, and it's a trip. And yeah, I was taught by Daniel and Laura and Fabiola, who isn't here. She was a president between me and Laura. Didn't have a lot of overlap with John, but we became friends when he helped do a panel similar to this when I was a president to teach us about what he does. So it's been a family affair, and being the president after Daniel and Laura, who really started doubling down on the trajectory of the club being about education and not just partying, which is sick. we, I think like during my presidency, which was like, I wanna say 2019 to 2020, like right before COVID, we were doubling down on Club Above and doing the residency there. We were making sure to try to get everyone who was interested to DJ like their first club show, but also starting to book a lot more musicians from Detroit. I think the first party we did was with Ectomorph, Brendan, BMG, and Erica from Detroit, who run the Interdimensional Transmissions label. And from there we did a number of parties with people like DJ Holographic, DJ Minx, Fabiola started the first ever Black History Month party that we were doing with MEMCO and trying to tie in like educational programming. And the last event that I did was, that I helped with was a Black History Month panel with Mad Mike from Underground Resistance, Stacey Hollabax, and then the party with Carlos Affront. And then the week after that was COVID, and everything just stopped. So that was kind of, yeah, it was a fucking trip. It was like a lot of momentum to ride into like everything kind of just stopping. And that was what Miguel inherited.
I think it's a story we're all familiar with, inheriting dumpster fire. I started, I'm from Ypsilanti, I'm from the area, and I was always like riding my bike around town, and sort of like called this home and sort of had this idea that I was always like, go to U of M and do what everyone else does. Thankfully, I had the fortune of being rejected from the university, which is a decision I appreciate now. But still, like this, I think I would always meet people and be like, yeah, this is like I'm from here. You're the transplant. But my first party was at NECDO. It was like November 2018. I was like just trying to figure out what was happening around town and just happened to go to the Red Room. It was cool that Jeffrey Hayner was playing. And I saw you speaker freaking and just having a good time. And I was like, yeah, this is like totally what I want to be doing. And I came from like doing theater in high school. And so having like a group of friends and like-minded artists and essentially producers, having a good time throwing a show was just like what I was looking for. I didn't know that is what I was looking for at the time, but I immediately got hooked. Jordan, I think the second party we went to was at Club Above. You saw me and my cousin and you were like, oh, you thought I would forget. And then I was like, oh, it's like real people here who, have like-minded interests. So started in 18 and then I was Lights Chair the year after and then president, 20 to 21. And that was nuts, to say the least. And I was like, I think I was a satellite president after, like 21 to 22? I don't know, but there we are. I don't know where the story goes from there.
Pass it on
To today.
You're on the panel now.
Yeah, you're on the panel.
Yeah, I joined in 2021, so.
Wait, Noah. Our first party was seeing Miguel in 2022.
Wait, that's so true, yeah.
It was.
You wanna talk about it?
Well, I just said it, yeah. I don't know, I was like, oh, this guy's so cool, and his music's so good, and I just remember like letting loose, and I don't know, having fun in Ann Arbor for the first time. And
Yeah.
the story's the same, it's a
Yeah.
classic story, yeah.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
Cool. I think that from what you've all said, like just now, it's clear that like even though this club like is large and there's so much history to it, like everyone's like time in the club, like they're able to have a really large impact on it. I was wondering if maybe you guys could mention something that you started while you were in MEMCO and like how you've seen it like evolve or if it's still here today. Just talk about that.
So we came up with a lot of different party examples and ideas. Our very first on-campus party that was at a bar wasn't actually at MEMCO, it was at a place called Touchdowns, which is now the Blue Leprechaun. And yeah, so
Say that one more time.
Blue Leprechaun used to be called Touchdowns. And I think this is a good time to interject with this little sub-story here. So we had so many events that in 2007, in the beginning of 2008, I was like, man, we have all these opportunities to have some kind of banner up. A lot but the very first line in the Victors is "Here they come with banners flying," and I'm like, we gotta have a banner, you know. So in 2008, I was like, we need a banner before the touchdowns party. It's in like 2 days. We need like a sign in 1 day. So I looked it up, and sure enough, there was a place called Signs in 1 Day. And I went to this place, and I bought a banner. And remember back then it was MEDMA, so I had the block M for the 2 M's, Michigan Electronic Dance Music Association. I later learned, by hoisting that sign up at various clubs and events, that it's a trademark logo, and so MEDMA couldn't use that. So that's why you don't see the block M on any MEMCO stuff. But you will see it on this banner. Since 2008, we've had this banner, and I've had DJs sign it from all over the world. I actually brought it. It's right here.
Shut up! Shut up! That's gaggy.
Oh my god.
Yes, we're the Space State Alliance.
We tried to make a bunch of fun.
Yes.
Gotta help.
That gets the reaction of the job.
That's cool. Someone take a photo. Quickly.
Yay!
Wow, damn.
Y'all over here.
The very first signature was Deadmau5 in 2008, right?
Oh my god. I was looking for it in the
So
picture.
we'll have this out. I mean,
Oh my god, yeah. Let's keep it up here.
Yeah.
Oh my god, thank you for bringing
Wow.
that.
I figured it would have been better to have it as a surprise than just having it up here the whole time. But to answer Noah's question about some traditions that kind of are still alive today, Jordan Bradley who lives in Detroit now. He used to live at Packard and West 4th, and we had this great little open area at his house, and it was a great place to have a DJ set up. So we actually came up with the concept of Deep Snow, Deep House in 2008. And that party has been going for 17 years now. We heard about the Deep Snow, Deep House party this year. So that I think is one really cool, lasting event that we've done that stayed true. Whether or not we did events at NACTO or Club Above or Windsor or Detroit, that's one cool thing that I'm really happy stayed alive throughout the years.
Whoa, well thank you. That's crazy of you. I'll talk about the night that Laura, your and I's kind of early brainchild was the all-female DJ night. Particularly because at least, this is no shade to John Sachs, but sometimes MEDMA's sort of kind of subtitle was it was a club that was 20 guys and one guy's girlfriend.
It did have, yeah.
And a lot of the parties, as a queer person, it was hard to just enter spaces that was just like all straight men. And so I was pretty bent on having office hours to teach people how to DJ, and I had a clear agenda. Laura, you were part of it, sorry.
Yeah. Daniel really, him and Daniel and Nikki,
She's at Coachella now, living her best life.
they really encouraged to have more women in the student org, and I remember I was like, they approached me about becoming a board member my sophomore year, and I was like, who, me? Really? We really want you to be in the elections. Come to the elections. We really want you there. So that was something. Daniel and Nikki's not here. Really did encourage. No, that's what you're gonna say.
Well, I think it's important because I think a lot of this club is about one-to-one relationships, where it's you just kind of know, and you're like, that person, come on in. And it was truly the office hours where they would come to my house, the techno dungeon, and I would teach them how to DJ. I was like, DJ's 10 steps, just memorize these 10 steps, and it was a one sheet. And I made them do those 10 steps 30 times. And I was like, okay, so your next gig's in 2 weeks. Come back one more time. You're gonna practice one more time. We're gonna book you for this party that I'm throwing at my house. And we just started doing that. That's what one of the first all-female DJ nights came about, because I was like, we just gotta start having more parties and not guys DJing to make sure that there's representation across the board, because otherwise this kind of slogan is gonna stay that way, and I just like don't. It was like there's another opportunity for us to be a little bit more inclusive. So that's one thing I'm proud of.
Daniel, if you remember those 10 steps.
Yeah.
Honestly, I probably still have that sheet in my Google Docs, and it's probably buried in the MEMCO Google Docs.
It's still there, I've seen it.
But
Oh gosh, there's a lot that we did while I was involved through the years. I remember we did like our own kind of like live stream. Like this like the era when like DJ live streaming became like a bigger thing, and we would like live stream our parties or like our little like techno and wine events. And I was like, y'all still do that, so that's cute. But yeah, the name change was a big one. We were going through a period of time where the club was like really divided between, I don't know, like kind of like two separate identities, and we felt like the name didn't really feel true to like the direction that we felt the organization going in. And so we had like a whole meeting, and actually. Jordan, we split up. It was like some like classroom ass shit. Like we like split up into little subgroups and like okay, brainstorm and come back. And it was Jordan, so we back. Jordan, I think actually came up with the name Michigan Electronic Music Collective. Yeah, I remember that specifically. Yeah, but we felt like collective fit the organization, like what we were about, which is like we are a collective. It's like we like share the interest, which is. Electronic music and dancing. Even though it's not, sorry, you're not part of us. You're not in the name anymore, but we still love you. So I guess like I'm proud of the name change and being like the first woman president of the org.
Woo!
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Oh yeah, damn, I forgot that. Yeah, that was a fun meeting.
Yeah,
It was a stressful meeting. But yeah, I guess I can answer this question just by, I mentioned that I first got involved with WCBN before I got involved with MEMCO, and I think my first board position was as music chair. And the more I fell in love with the music that people like Daniel and Laura were teaching me with, like at office hours, the more I was also just familiarizing myself with the insane record collection at WCBN and finding out that records I was learning how to DJ with were like hundreds of dollars on Discogs and things that were coveted. And like kind of that retroactive learning, feeling it before like knowing, really inspired me to try to like connect the two orgs. Like a lot of MEMCO people were hyped on DJing and like the energy at parties, but we're in WCBN DJs and didn't spend a lot of time in the archives. And I think Crush Collision, which I think is objectively one of the oldest electronic music radio shows in the world, was something that we weren't involved in. So I think one of the first things I wanted to do is try to join the organizations more. And I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like there's still like interpollination. I know it changes every semester a bit, but I think that was like a really cool legacy, and like being the person who helped, I guess, try to initially lead the charge of joining the organizations is ultimately what inspired me to make a little love letter to this organization. It's like a documentary I made. It was kind of my senior thesis, and I've been informed that it's still played like in your mass meetings, maybe, like.
Yeah, I recall.
Which is a trip, because that was like a film I made for a class, you know, and it was just like something that I was so inspired and touched by, just like the wealth of knowledge, like in the city, the people who helped me in the right direction to like learn that, to connect with music in a way that wasn't just I feel it, but it was like, wow, there's a crazy story here, there's a crazy story to tell, a legacy of musicians who've come in out of this very transient place, people like myself who I haven't even been here in 5 years, but the story that Arbor plays in the wider story of Detroit techno and electronic music is definitely very resonant and inspired me to make that film, which I guess is in a small way still a part of this org. So that's really cool and touching. Yeah.
Let's see. Do you guys still have the like music production workshops, the NPW? Do you guys still catalog?
Yeah, we have the workshops.
Okay, because I think that's the only thing that was new during my term, which was right when COVID was starting, and so a lot of what was on my plate was just sort of like digitizing the work we do and trying to facilitate connectivity while we're still like in lockdown. And I think, we're streaming now on OBS, and I hope like all of the tutorials I wrote are like making sense and hopefully like still of use. So it's good to know you're still doing the MPW series. Yeah, I think that's what's still going on that I'm doing.
Who started the Google Drive? When did that start? Because there's so much in there.
I think it was in between you and I, Sean.
Masters or something?
I think it was Sean Masters and Nick Danansky. Or was it KR's?
It might have been me or it might have been Nick Danansky.
So KR, also known as Kevin Rogers,
Oh yeah.
great DJ,
Yeah.
based in
I
Detroit.
was in the years considered the bad years, and I understand.
Not the bad years. They were great years.
Who's the bridge?
It's how I articulate it is MEMCO can be defined like 100 ways, and all those ways are valid. I had just arrived at a time where the priority was we're gonna like play parties for people in Ann Arbor, and a lot of those people, especially in an industry that is the University of Michigan, there's a lot of fraternities that have a lot of parties, and you can make $1,000 every single time you throw a party, which is great. It meant that we could, honestly, to those years, it meant that we could buy a lot of equipment. And I showed up, like, we already had 3 subwoofers, 4 speakers, they're all powered, 4 CDJs, 2 mixers, like we were set. So to that point, it's I think a lot of that infrastructure, even if we weren't going to Detroit every single weekend, a lot of that helped build up I would articulate as success that the rest of the years that we were in it could do. Yeah, I think it's probably KR.
Shout out KR.
Yeah.
Thanks, KR.
I've got a lot of files still, yeah. I've got posters also.
Yeah, I kind of want to talk about like the changes that MEMCO's gone through, especially being such a large club and with electronic music being such a large category that is not even really a genre in itself. There's so much room for different styles and tastes, especially like as they change over time. How have you guys seen the genres MEMCO associates with or plays change through the years?
You go. You start.
Okay. I just remember when I first started, I kind of talked about how there was like a riff in the org when I joined of like, Daniel would call these people professionals that would come in and be like, they come into the club and be like, I have 10,000 followers on SoundCloud. I am like a DJ and producer, and I am like, I just want to be in this org. But they didn't really like bring much to the table besides kind of like having all this like clout, and it was like this type of like electronic music that was like kind of like just more like big room type stuff, which is like fine, but I think what was kind of happening in the organization when I was a part was that we were connecting more with like the roots of like techno and electro music in Ann Arbor and Detroit, and that was becoming more of like a focus, like genre wise of the organization. So I think like from the time I joined, like I like the presence too when I joined, they were more into like I would say like more like big room techno, and then it became more like underground techno in house, or like more like Drexian. Yeah, that's like a change that I noticed when I joined. So.
And I would say too, to kind of like from, well, I would include some of the years that John Sachs was in up until ours too. It was still like an unknown thing that techno was black. Like people didn't know the Belleville 3, they didn't know they lived like 30 miles away from where it started. And that was where a lot of the work that Dweller was doing in New York, that Make Techno Black Again was doing, that was helping at least us also see that like some of the genres and some of the styles weren't as attached to that root, and we wanted to make sure that that root like stayed a part of it. Those other genres totally fine, they could be part of it, but if we don't have that, then we're kind of floating out there. I don't know, John, if you've got more to say, because you were part of that as well.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because 2007, 2008, the DJs that were DJing, and keep in mind, you know, this was only a couple dozen of us at this point. We were all playing a lot of kind of faster, like we would joke that 128 BPM was like our home BPM. And then as I became an upperclassman, that slowed down drastically. And as I left 2011, 2013, there was this kind of new disco slow-mo kind of vibe that was really popular, like, you know, things like Hot Natured and stuff like that. And so I actually jokingly, with our friend Kevin McQuillan, who is arguably the slowest BPM of them all, his home BPM is more like 106, okay? We actually jokingly made a time series, like a line chart of the BPM over time and the peaks and the valleys. But yeah, to answer Noah's question, it's really crazy. You know, most of the time, sure, it's between 110 and 130, but you know, I also have a drum and bass side of me, 160, 170, and I think everybody, you know, kind of all jumps all over the place. And it's cyclical, but at the same time, you know, it's really interesting to see right now the kind of faster paced techno that's really taking control. But it's been all over the place, and it's just really interesting to come back and you know, just see what the current sitting MEMCO members are playing.
Yeah, definitely agree with a lot of what everyone's saying. I mean, like when I was president, one of the last parties that we started, I can't take credit for this was Chris, Joe, and Liam. So shout out them, did Speed Kills, which, you know, was above 160 only. I don't know if y'all still do that, but that was, you know, yeah, we made that stupid ass video. Have you ever seen it?
No.
I'll send it to you.
Speed Kills was the first Impulse I ever played at, and it was like
Oh,
a
shit.
big moment for me in my DJ like journey.
Super sick. Yeah, well, I was president during the great breakbeat invasion of all of club culture that was happening. You know, a lot of like jungle and like breakbeat and like club edits and shit. So that was popping when I was president, but I don't know, I just like, I was a big like punk dude and like mosh pit guy when I joined the club, and then I was really into like scary techno, you know, for a while, and I was like scaring everybody away at parties. I got like voted most likely to blow this up or something when I was and I, you know, like people like Daniel and Laura were constantly impressing on me, you know, like techno is from Detroit, like listen to some of these names, it was like the records that we had on our USBs, which is crazy, and it was also the same records I was listening to at WCBN. There's like a local section, a lot of, you know, Detroit Midwestern artists, and like that music sounds a specific way, and it took me a while to kind of warm up to it, honestly. Like it's a lot more soulful, it's a lot more colorful. I didn't love it at first, and I couldn't really articulate how to like describe the difference between like this house track that was made by whoever the fuck on a European festival circuit versus like a Moody Man song. Like it took me a long time to try to understand why I was gravitating towards one versus the other, but I think the people in the club who took it upon themselves to really not necessarily have one taste or another, but try to educate themselves, I think ended up always sticking together. And that I think was like, is the truest kind of like continuum as far as like the music trends of MEMCO, is that the people who really love music and took it upon themselves just to expose themselves to different kinds of electronic music really became homies for life, which is cool.
Yeah, and Jordan, I want to give you your flowers for that, because I think that was such a clear, letting people know that this door is open for you to experience what you want, but also to see like where the roots are. And when I joined around 2019 or 20, it was like peak Peak Boiler Room, like everyone thought that was the coolest thing, like Hector Oaks, Nene H, and VTSS, like all of those names were like hip at the time. It was very European, and it was nice to have that documentary. It was nice to know that WCBN was so close just to go and like pull anything and know that it was like from the local area and also like stood the test of time by 20, 30 years. So that was super, super epic. I forget who started the Impulse series.
That was us. Yeah.
Or the Impulse Mix series, the ensemble.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We
Was
brought
it-
them back, yeah.
There was a pause for a long time, and actually, like I think we had maybe 8 or 9 impulse like mixes, and then they stopped, and then I think you guys restarted it. Like that's right.
Impulse is the part of the
Yeah.
series. Excuse me. But that was big. Bringing the exposure mix back was big because I think it was just a clear like, hey, you go to office hours, DJ what you want. We'll give you references, and then it was play what you want on the exposure mix, and that is when I noticed a big shift in the parties because I think it was great to have people to let them have space. And calling it exposure mix, I think is very true too. Just say like, put what you want out there. And I think mine is crazy. It's like 150 BPM, like Schron's headache stuff. But it was cool at the time. I really appreciated that. And that was, I think, in 2019 is when the exposure series started on SoundCloud.
Awesome. Thanks. I want to go back to what you guys were saying about Detroit, because from the very beginning, this club was really connected to the city, and I think that it's kind of changed in its relationship to Detroit as Detroit has changed, and I was just wondering what you guys have noticed about the relationship between MEMCO and Detroit.
I would say 2005 was when the carpooling was happening, and we would go to a lot of unmarked parties, and just coordinating, especially in those winter months, getting back to Ann Arbor was a challenge. And then once we made the connection with the folks in Windsor at the Boom Boom Room, at the last couple years I was in MEMCO, we were actually going to Windsor probably more than we were in Detroit. So I'll let the rest of you guys talk more about Detroit specifically, but Paxahau was really starting to take off in 2006. 2006 was the first year that Paxahau took over movement, and they've been doing it ever since. And so, because a lot of those events were 21 and up, at least the above code ones, we only had seniors and grad students that were able to go to those events. So yeah, I think that the combination of doing off-campus events, we even went to Purdue and other schools and did events, and then doing events in Ann Arbor and doing events in Windsor. I would say that my tenure was probably one of the least Detroit-heavy tenures. So I'll let everybody else speak more about re-engaging with Detroit.
Yeah, I think that I mentioned in the first question, but I do think that was like a big part of what I was inspired to do by Daniel, Laura, and Fabiola, was to try to, think about not only how can we platform, the students who are interested, and it's, as I'm sure y'all who are currently in MEMCO, it's tough to walk the line of wanting to make sure that people in the club who are due-paying members feel like they have access to resources and the ability to play their first gigs, but also trying to do that due diligence of booking artists who have dedicated years, decades, if not their entire lives to the craft, who live a short drive away, to give them the space in Ann Arbor to do that. And walking that line was difficult, but I felt like it was really important. And I remember people talking to us, the board members, after seeing their first live electronic music performance that wasn't big room dubstep, no shade, but those things are accessible in Ann Arbor and in the rest of the world in the ways that live techno performances might not be. So starting to try to work with artists who were from Detroit and give the gift of those kinds of experiences to people who are still, 18, 19, and open their eyes to the possibility of that kind of musical experience for $5 or free. It was really cool, and the legacy of Detroit as like a city where a lot of this music comes from was really important to that. So yeah, I think booking Detroit artists was, I think, like a big part, at least the years that I was involved with the club, in trying to get people to be excited on their own, rather than kind of just pointing to Detroit as this like nebulous, it's cool and like the Detroit D and like it's sick and like, borderline fetishizing it, like trying to like, engage with art that was coming from there was really, I think, important in getting people excited about the city.
Yeah, I guess when I was involved in MEMCO, like one of like the big things, and I need to give Daniel a lot of credit for this, is he made a really big effort to get us more connected to like the alumni in Detroit, and and that like I feel like that changed everything, because like not only were we like driving from Ann Arbor to Detroit to go to techno shows, but we were going to shows that like MEMCO alumni were playing and like organizing, and like that was so cool to meet all these people that had like similar experiences to us in Ann Arbor, living there, like putting on events, booking like Detroit DJs too, and yeah, I feel like that was like something that I don't know, like the generations connecting is something that happened when I was involved, so that was pretty cool.
I think for me, I really appreciated, what everyone has said, I don't need to say again. I think Jordan, I came fresh off of Jordan's presidency, and it was just a very healthy view of Detroit, and I was constantly being reminded about how accessible it was through MEMCO. I don't know exactly what day it was, but we would drive out there and sometimes drive back. But there was a point when I had met Patrick, and they're like the Technotel, and I became familiar with that, and Daniel, and it was just like this kind of mysterious house where I would find myself at, and I would just be seeing people way older than me and way more just different and doing different things, and I was just like, I still felt like family in that house, even though there were maybe there's 10 years between Patrick and myself, but the first time we had met him, I knew it was like family right away, and same with everyone on this panel, and so that was great for me, knowing that through MEMCO I had a foot in the door in Detroit, or at least a place to sleep, because at first glance it's pretty desolate and it's hard to find a place to be comfortable in, and I found comfort through MEMCO there, because of how old it is, and just how much of a family matter it is. Like Jordan did teach me to DJ, and it's just like you can see literally the lineage through time, and the same is true for music history in Detroit and through Motown. It's a very Michigan is like, I love the Midwest. It's very, you put in work and you make good relationships, and you just keep doing the same thing and build and build and build. And you see that in Detroit, and you see that in MEMCO. And so for me, it was a shame that COVID had happened, because I feel like we were really in a great positive feedback loop where it was just, MEMCO was folding on each other with how kind everyone was and how much resources people were sharing outside of, hey, I'm an undergrad at this school. It then became a resource sharing across 15 years, which is crazy, just for pressing play.
I'll just say two things to wrap up this. I think one, Miguel, maybe more to your flowers, I think what's so critical about ensuring Detroit's legacy stays part of MEMCO is archiving, digitizing, getting it online, making it visible, putting it on the Google Docs. And when you don't have that, a lot of that knowledge, especially when we're in U of M, literally graduates itself out. And if you don't have a friendship with that group or those seniors that leave, they kind of like go away. And so I would say, maybe in sort of a counter argument, I think COVID did help you and help the group go, oh my God, we have like 15 years of this thing, let's get it online, let's keep doing the exposure mixes, let's keep people engaged, let's keep doing these live streams, because that's what works now. And it just means that in like 10 years, when we come back in a wheelchair, I'm kidding, as an elder, we come back as an elder, let's say that. They'll be like, oh, it was you, I saw your thing online and it's important. So I think that like keeping the relationship alive to Detroit comes down to like saving the flyers and getting them online and sharing the mixes and making sure they're still there. And all that back work is like so unsaid, and it's like the boring labor of MEMCO. If you've ever been on the board, you just are like, ugh. But that stuff to me is like really important, and it's a great way to keep that relationship alive.
That's great. I guess going from Detroit back to Ann Arbor, like schools, or it's at the University of Michigan, but also schools and universities in general are kind of feel like these really good playgrounds for working on like more like experimental projects or just trial and error in general. They're kind of low stakes. You're not really worried about DJing for money at that point. But what do you guys see these institutions, or what role do you guys see these institutions playing in the larger electronic music scene and in the future?
Just to clarify, in terms of like U of M's ability to give you like a rubber stamp, you're a student org and here's money and here's a budget?
More so having university clubs as like a jumping off point for electronic music work.
Okay. So I'll say this. I think MEMCO is a great way to get exposure to what you like and what you don't. Literally probably 8 to 9 years before other people come into the music scene and start thinking about it like, I want to participate. Like, I remember I graduated, immediately moved to New York, and I was going to these parties, and people were wearing Underground Resistance t-shirts and they'd never been to Detroit. And I'd be like, oh my God, do you have that record like Drexia? And they're like, what's Drexia? I'm like, so I think in many ways, it's a like head start in your exploration of how you want to participate in the scene. Is it just going to parties? Awesome. Do you want to be a musician? Great. Let's go to the workshops, actually get that going. Do you want to DJ? Okay, here's actually CDJs. Here's how you actually play them. And I've been very surprised in my years after MEMCO to realize that some people just never had that experience in high school or college, and they're like 30 and they're like, they get imposter syndrome because they just have no idea how to participate, and they've been doing it for so long that they feel locked out of it. So I think like that to me is a really important way of engaging. It gives you an easy, low bar access to just try it, so that if you want to continue, once you graduate, you actually have the relationships and the skills and at least some base knowledge to like move forward with it. Let's go to Mika.
Sorry.
I think the role is just, for me, MEMCO was such a great hub for resource and collaboration, which was something I didn't have where I was living at the time, just in Ypsilanti. So I think it's really convenient and should be taken advantage of, the amount of people and money, but also literally like the library giving out lights for free and whatever you want. Like there's so many resources and tools through stamps or through the School of Theater and Dance. Like those are all things I was trying to take advantage of. But MEMCO is also a great incubator for culture because of the speed at which you can move with the resources and collaboration available. That is a testament. I mean, MEMCO is a testament to how collaboration and just producing things with other people is easy, I never attended the school, but through MEMCO I was able to produce a lot and meet all of these cool people and move to Detroit and feel confident about that. And so I think it's important that it at least does that someone who has no ties and has a completely different schedule can still come and make positive relationships and cool ass parties.
Just the fact that we're in the Michigan Union in this beautiful room right now really is a testament to MEMCO's growth in the last 20 years, because our very first DJ workshop was in Mason Hall in 2008, and we weren't maybe it was because we were such a small club at that point, but we weren't allowed to rent a room. And so, outside of having MEDMA at UMich.edu and MEDMA-core at UMich.edu, we weren't given very many resources by the university. So when I think about the role of universities in electronic music, and I think about the role of Michigan in the arts, generally speaking, they've given MEMCO so much more support in the last 20 years, and it's so amazing to see the growth over the last 2 decades. And so, I think about other universities. The University of Southern California actually has like a class on the history of electronic music, which is incredible. And the University of Colorado has something called Program Council, which is a group of people who book live music events with the University of Colorado's funding for the arts. And I don't think there's something like that exists at Michigan. If there is, maybe it's in the school of music or the business school or something. Maybe it does exist, but there's so many different ways for universities to contribute to the arts, especially with undergraduate students. And so it's just beautiful to see the way that that's developed and grown over the last 20 years.
Yeah, to everyone's point, I mean, I think like a big part of when I was president too is we were writing a lot of grants. I didn't know that was allowed, that there was thousands of dollars to throw around, but it's a big reason why I'm sitting on this panel too. So thank you for the honorarium. Like, it helps a lot, money. You need money to do shit. UMich has got it. It's the same in the real world. You need fucking money to do stuff. A big part of college education, like a big facet of it, is professional development. Like, the single most important thing I've done for myself in my life professionally was joining this club and investing in it, emotionally and intellectually. And it is fertile soil for you to just kind of see about some things. Like, if you're interested in pursuing, graphic design, interested in pursuing experimental art, interested like me. I was like a nerd about marketing, honestly, and trying to get better at posting our social flyers and taking videos and recaps and having a regimented rollout to make our parties look cooler. It's icky stuff. We don't talk about it a lot, but it's a big part of how I pay my rent today, to be honest. So if you're looking for your sign, speaking more to the active members, you're doing a lot with school and stuff, but you're looking for your sign to stay more involved, do it. It was, for me, the most valuable thing I did for my own personal, professional development, and that's why I'm grateful that we're allowed to be in the union and exist at the club and get grants when we can, and have space and resources. It's important.
Yeah, I don't have too much to add outside of what everyone said, but just the resources that you have access to, we had access, I had access to a sound system when I was 18, and in DJ equipment, that's what an 18-year-old has access to that, it's crazy, it's so cool. So yeah, I think the biggest thing that universities have is money and resources, and yeah, to what Jordan said, I hadn't really thought of that, but yeah, the professional development, or just any skill you can bring it to this. And I think it's cool. I think this might be the oldest club student organization like this in the country or the world. I've heard of other universities having newer student orgs that are MEMCO, but nothing we might be the oldest student org like this. Yeah, I think we are. First. I know. Yeah.
you were saying, and maybe hear from some other people about how your work in this club has informed what you're doing now. Because you all work in music in some way.
Totally. Yeah, well, one of the first things we did during COVID era before I graduated and having my own like identity crisis, what am I gonna do for a job thing, was we had a panel with John, who I'm sure we'll talk about in a few minutes. He's like an incredibly successful booking agent, not sexful, but maybe sexful, yeah, sexful and successful booking agent. He has a lot of artists that we're probably all fans of on his roster, and that's pretty cool. And he's been doing that for a while. There are a lot of people in MEMCO and in this network who do the same. And for the longest time, joining this club, like that was the coolest thing in the world to me. So I guess like right now, like having conversations with people like John and the people on this panel, like Daniel, who moved to New York and like had a few year head start, I think like helped me find my own footing. I studied film and business. I didn't really like either of them. Because neither of them made me feel like there was a way to apply like the things that I was excited about and learning about in this club in the real world. But there are a lot of ways. And right now I'm a project manager, producer at a creative agency, and I've been doing that at a couple different companies for a few years now. A lot of what it boils down to is learning how to work with people and communicate information in a way that's effective but also thoughtful. Working with people is hard and it sucks, and a lot of MEMCO is, it's volunteer time. Like it's not all sexy, like sometimes you have to wake up hungover and move speakers and stuff, like that sucks. And you still have to like do your thesis and whatever. But it's important to learn how to like work with people, and I think like work with people who are as passionate as you are in different directions. So yeah, I think that was a big way that MEMCO involved, like influenced my professional development. And any of y'all, if you're interested, like always down to talk about professional stuff. The only reason I'm where I am is because people like John and Daniel kind of did that for me. And I'm also still very involved in DJing and like booking in New York. We've been residents at a small club called Boston Nova Civic Club in Brooklyn for 3 years now. And we do a party series called Lifesavers. A lot of the DJs who've played over the past 3 years are like MEMCO and people I met here. So that's really a pleasure. And so yeah, super connected to this club.
Yeah, I think one thing that all of us share up here is that we are so lucky and fortunate to be able to lead with purpose in our work, and work with a capital W. It's not just getting a paycheck. It's having purpose behind your work, passion behind your work. MEDMA and MEMCO, I would not be a music agent today if it weren't for this club, hands down. Making the connections that I made, starting to book artists at Necto, and having Scott Gregg from Necto Nightclub dare to believe in us as a student group, give us the Frequency Saturdays in the Red Room, throughout the entire school year. Saturdays are not an easy night for a club to give up, but they dared to believe in us, and that's how. So there's a huge reason why MEMCO grew in 2008 and 2009, and we booked Dead Mouse, Above and Beyond, Paulo Mojo, Sultan Ed Shepherd, all those artists. And do you think all those made money? Absolutely not. Dead Mouse for sure, but a lot of those didn't. And so when it comes down to the dollars and cents that Jordan was talking about, it's really tough out there. Just being a promoter is one of the most riskiest things you can possibly do. And that is, it's really, you really got to take, some time to think about just how much risk a promoter assumes. And, like Daniel can talk more about throwing parties, and Jordan as well in Brooklyn. When you have 12 million people in a metro area, it's hard to get anyone's attention. And you have to build a certain, dialect for people to believe in, and start to kind of, build a community around, build a collective around. And that's one thing I want to say about MEMCO is that, regardless of how the ebbs and flows of the club, we are an inclusionary club more than anything. Regardless of what style of music you listen to, you got to think about it. I mean, incoming freshmen are 17, 18 years old. There's no room to discriminate, just regardless, but also, one time, Doug Sharp, Daniel's older brother, always tells the story about me. I don't actually remember this this story, but it was at a mass meeting that we had when someone came up to me and said, "Hey, I really love David Guetta." You know, and I'm like, "That's awesome, that's great. Like, here, sign up, join our listserv." And I don't remember that story, but the way that when Doug told me that story, I really appreciated it because, you know, we welcome everyone with open arms, regardless of your background, your musical taste, and we hope that through MEMCO you build a collective and a community of your own.
I think continuing on what Jordan had said, like MEMCO for me taught me how to communicate effectively and thoughtfully is really the important part. Acting president, but also just being a member in general, someone who had something they wanted to contribute, whether it was lights or a little like spray painted sheet that I wanted to put up, or a DJ set, like literally anything I wanted to contribute was accepted, and that was great practice for me. It was great to wear multiple hats in that regard, and it is a production. Like a production works similarly on a film set, for opera, for theater, for the union especially. So there was a point in time where, around the time when I was president and really like tapped in just to like making things happen, was also, it allowed me to be the production manager for the Ann Arbor Symphony at the same time, and then also move on to working in the stagehand union, and just the transition was seamless, and it was crazy to be 20 years old and managing a DJ collective and a professional orchestra, like one being primarily volunteer and the other having a budget of like $3 million or something. So I definitely owe a lot. I really owe my life to MEMCO and the things that it has taught me about myself and other people. It's not like, it's not something that you do and you forget about after the fact. Like it can really, it goes as far as you want it to.
I'll talk about this through one of the projects that we run, Moods. I started it in 2017, right when I graduated. It's a mixtape series. It started with this idea of like, all these mix series are like techno, and like buy my latest album, and I'm only playing what my friends are about to debut. I would love a mix series where it's like the opposite. What is the opposite of like a Resident Advisor mix? It would be people who play techno, but they're like playing their dad's jazz. Like, what does that look like? So it started that idea. It's like, it was started as like not techno for techno people. I started in New York, launched it 2018 with 3 parties. First party that we did was on Bossa Nova Civic Club, where Jordan now has a residency. We got a Tuesday night, and I worked so hard on that party. You came in to play.
Oh yeah.
It was you, me, another guy named Miguel, and someone named Andrew, and like 40 people came. It was cute, but I was like, damn, I was like packing out places at the Works and here in Ann Arbor when I was at U of M with Medma, like what's happening? And I think over the years, I kept doing Moods. A friend of ours, Crystal, joined, Miguel joined. We're now in year 8, and we have a party. It's a barbecue, and there's like 300 people at our house that I live with Patrick and Alex and Meg. And I think now, I'm 30, I look back, and I'm like, whoa, Medma and MEMCO work really fast, and it's really easy to get stuff done because people have energy, and they want an excuse to go dance, because it's hard to like also be a student, so there's a lot of energy. And then when I went into the real world, I realized how slow and heavy and like everyone has a lot of inertia. I was living in New York where there's 20 million things to do, and I had come to the realization of like, oh, I'm now doing what I thought I was going to do 5 years ago, because like real life takes time. It takes relationships that build over like 7 years, and those things compound over time. And now I have like looking back and see that power, the lasting power of just constantly doing something, even if it's a slow drip of like, I mean, our mix series, we do like 1 a month. It's not but the consistency of that over time has shown me that you can do really awesome things, and that amount of time actually helps you figure out what you want to do. So if it feels like you graduate and you're like, I'm trying to throw parties and it's not working, my advice is always like, just keep doing it, keep trying it, doing it at the rhythm that makes sense, don't burn yourself out, and it will continue to organically grow. Every single time I've seen that happen.
Yes, thank you all. I just have one more question before we wrap things up, and that's, what does collective mean to you?
For me, like a collective is a party. Collective is like a family meal. It's just like come by and do what you want in this area where there's going to be loud music. I look to MEMCO a lot in the way that a collective is organized here, which is really voluntary. Just for me, a collective is a place that encourages contribution without any pressure, and it inspires my club diffuse like house party vibe, which is where it's very much like, hey, I'm going to amplify music. It's going to be pretty sick, but I'm also like, if you come early, there's going to be family meal. Sit on my couch and listen to music. You don't have to feel pressure to do anything. I'm very much like, I need a corner in the club to just like listen to music and not be perceived, and I want to make sure that perspective and any other perspective is like seen and recognized, and MEMCO is a collective where that happens and it's encouraged, and things are built off of that.
I'll say collective it's like a secret third option. It's not a business. It's not a nonprofit. It's like a secret third place. At a time where like a lot of the structures and the systems that we face feel so insurmountable, so hard, so immovable, you can't change things. It's nice to be grounded in a thing like a collective that is kind of slippery and not caught up in like, we're a business so we need to make money, we're a nonprofit so we need to validate our mission statement. Doing it as a collective, like to our collective points, it's a word that is both a noun and a verb that gives you access to like try stuff and slip against the system and push back and try new things, and if things don't work, then whatever, do it again, without feeling like you're stuck or beholden to X, Y, Z, A, B, C. So to me, collective means like a way out. Whoa.
I love that. It's so poetic. It's like, for me, it's a group of people with like-minded interests, and like what you put into it's what you get out of it. And I think that's like rings so true for this org, and like the people that you see doing like really cool stuff, which like, everyone here, are the people that put like a lot into the organization and like got a lot out of it. So I think that's what's collective. And it's like, what Miguel said, family. I really feel that way with like all of you. So even those of you I don't know yet, you're my family.
Yeah, I think, being part of a collective, first and foremost, is being compassionate for other people's experiences. People who have different backgrounds than you, who come from a different part of the world than you. And it's so important to make sure that everyone in the collective is seen and heard, and everyone has a place at the table. And that's one thing that MEMCO did and does so well, is it just comes back to what I said about just being inclusionary. It takes a lot of bravery for people to sign up at festival and come to these events. We have people from every single part of the kind of like, the really outgoing folks, really shy folks. And one thing that's true between all of us is our passion for electronic music. And so being compassionate for other people's experiences and making sure that everybody is included is what a collective means to me.
Yeah, I like to tie that up in a bowl, not to cop out, but I think of like, the bell hooks, like definition of love. How like love isn't like a a noun or a feeling. It's a verb. It's like it's an active investment in the betterment of your partner, your person, or like your collective. There are a lot of rooms that you'll enter where you don't feel like, wow, these people want what's best for me. But I always felt that way here. Like this is a space where the people here want what's best for me, and I want what's best for them. And I've had the privilege of existing in a lot of rooms like that after MEMCO, like similar collectives. Like one in New York is called 8-Ball Community, that's similarly transient, similarly run by volunteers, similarly has a lot of drama, you know, because it's a lot of people volunteering their time, but everyone loves each other and is actively interested in the betterment of their peers in the space, and I think that's rare, so you gotta hold on to that. That's what a collective is to me.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing MEMCO did for me was like set the bar, set the metric as like, hey, if you want to work and you want to do things, it should feel like this. It shouldn't be stressed. Like to your point, it's not a business. You don't really need to push things, but it moves as fast as you want it to, and it aligned my compass, and I've used it in the past couple of years just to basically, figure out if an opportunity is good or worth my time, despite other factors about it. So I think it definitely is a remarkable, brilliant collective here, and 20 years is awesome. It really is awesome. It's a testament to love. It's a testament to speaker freaking. And
20 years of speaker freaking. Just doesn't tag on it.
Well, thank you all for coming, and all of you. I think that's a wrap. We have cake if you want.
Cake.
Got the cake.
Thank you, live stream.
Thanks, yeah. Thank you all for being here.
Come look at this banner too.
Yeah. I need a photo of this.
Bye. Love, love.
Sorry, yeah, made me cry.
I'm stopping the stream.